The Powers Project.
Richie, how are you this morning, sir?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you on the show. I came across your YouTube channel a few weeks ago, and I really thought, the topics that you talk about are like there's no limit. Like you'll talk about anything, and I was surprised by many of them, just how open and you're an open book, and you're not afraid to discuss things that a lot of other YouTubers won't discuss. They pretend to be as open as you, they're just not. And so I was really impressed with that. So how long have you been doing this?
Well, I started my YouTube channel in 2017, so however many years that has been, but it was around this time in 2017. And I started when I was in college and I just wanted an outlet, somewhere to express myself and how I was really feeling because the friends that I had at the time were all straight, so I couldn't really open up to them about the struggles I was dealing with being a gay guy in a new town and how to meet other gay guys and just even like-minded people. So YouTube was that place for me to kind of call out for help in a way, but also express what I was dealing with and how I was getting through those struggles in hopes to help other guys that might be dealing with the same. So,
So you're 23 now, right?
right.
Okay, so if you can, like, tell me what's it like, or what was it like for you to come out? Because I know that it's so different for many younger guys like yourself, coming out now as it didn't compared to in my day where you just didn't come out. That just wasn't a thing that unless you're an incredibly brave soul, which back in those days I was not. So do you feel like it still takes a certain amount of bravery to come out in even in this day and age?
Definitely. I think it really depends on where you are in the world. Certainly, where I grew up in Western Maryland, in a small country town of 3,000 people, I didn't have any gay role models to look up to. There was no gay guys, no out gay guys in my school. So the entire concept of being gay and what living a life as a gay man, that was just very foreign to me. And once I moved to Arizona and I really started to live as myself and my full authentic self, that was when I started to just learn everything that I've been wanting to learn since I came out. Because I came out senior year of high school, but it wasn't until I came home for Christmas, um, when I got into college, that I came out to my dad. Because the first person I came out to was my mom. And it was a very, it wasn't difficult. It was difficult for me, but it went a lot better than I thought it would go. And the same thing happened with my dad. He took it a lot better than I thought he would. So I think coming out in today's day and age really, it just, it's tough. It's hard to kind of put my finger on it because some guys were able to come out when they were 13, and dated throughout high school and had other gay friends in high school. And that was something I really wanted growing up, but I just never had that. So I think it really just depends on when you're ready and when you're willing to accept yourself and not be ashamed of yourself. That's when it's time to come out.
Right.
But
And
it's going to be difficult either way. And I think there's always going to be people that frown upon you and your lifestyle choices, but that's just, that's universal. It's not
right.
just for gay men. So,
Exactly. I think you make a great point, though. Being in the little, western town or in Western Maryland, it probably is a lot more difficult than coming out in a bigger city. Like from the people I've talked to who are younger, that there's still a lot of difficulty as far as coming out when you live in the Midwest or in small towns, because you don't have that support system. You don't have people aren't they're it's not something that's in their face. It's not something that they're aware of very much. It's like that's a big city problem. We don't have gay people in this little town. That's
Exactly.
a sort of attitude.
And it's not just that either. It's when you're living in such a small town, because there's a difference from small towns to very small towns, which is like where I'm from, where everybody goes to the same high school all throughout kindergarten, graduates from the same high school. You have different family members of people that are going to the same school together, and everybody goes to the same grocery store, the same gas station. It's all the same. So once something gets out, it spreads like wildfire, and you have to risk, getting the dirty looks and the gossip. And I just really wasn't willing to put myself through that while I was still living in Maryland.
So when you came out it sounds like your parents are pretty supportive. Would that be correct? Are they both supportive of you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, they're supportive and they're accepting of me.
Okay.
I'm sure they wish things would have gone differently, because they know some of the struggles that I've gone through and things like that. But I'm grateful that they are relatively supportive.
Right. Now, what about when you came out in high school? Were your friends supportive and accepting as well?
No,
Really?
not one,
Wow.
not one single friend. And I knew that in the back of my mind, which is why I stayed hidden for so long. I waited until like the absolute last moment to finally tell my first person that I liked guys. And it was actually a classmate of mine, and she was the most accepting out of everybody that I told at that time. She was proud of me. She wanted to know more about like how I was meeting other guys, and if I was happy, because she was one of those girls that I pretty much grew up with. She's been to my house. Her brother was friends with my sister. So once I kind of had that, you know, once I had that relief, that sigh of relief after telling her, that's when I started telling more and more people. But the first person I told in my friend group was my friend's boyfriend. And it was at a party. So, we were drinking, and my inhibitions were gone at this time. And I just felt like, okay, I want to tell so and so about this, because I just feel like he would hold it for me, and maybe he has advice for me. So, I pull him aside and I tell him this, and I'm just like very scared that he's going to tell other people. And I'm just asking him, please don't tell other people. And I told him basically, hey, this is what I've been dealing with, and it's really tough, and I'm really lonely, and all of that. And I wasn't flirting with him. I was just venting to him, because I felt like he was the most viable person to vent to, because he came from a religious family, and he had a good spirit about him. I knew he wasn't just outwardly judgmental. So as soon as I told him, we had a talk for probably 10 minutes, and 15 minutes later, all of my friends started acting really weird towards me. And this was at my house, by the way. I threw a party at my house. Yeah. I was always the host for most things growing up. But that's another story. So yeah, my friends, one by one, they started leaving, and I was like, what's going on? What's going on? It was still early in the evening, and I found out that he just told all of them right then and there, and just completely betrayed my trust and everything. It was a horrible feeling. And then after that, I just started getting treated very harshly by my friends, these people that I was devoting so much of my time to, and traveling with, and going to concerts with, and having them over at my house just about every day, and supplying them with everything. Like, I always had everything. I never asked them for money. It was never that. I was always the one handing it out, and like, here, be my friend, because I was so lonely.
Right.
And so I think once I realized that none of the people that I had been spending so much of my life with accepted me, I knew that I was going to Arizona for college, and I was just looking forward to that point because I was done. I was like, I'm not going to be somebody that I'm not just to make you guys feel more comfortable. You know, it was just disappointing to say the least. So,
Okay, so let's move a little forward then, and
okay.
let's talk about something else that what happened when I came out and found disappointing. So, it's sort of like you come out of the closet finally. And, I don't know about for you, but for me, when I finally decided to come out, I was like, look, I knew I was going to lose people in my life. I had no doubt about that. But it just occurred to me one day that, if I lose these people, then they weren't friends to begin with, and I didn't want someone's half-ass love. I didn't want them to love me because of who this image that they had of me. And if they didn't truly love me for me, then that's all it was an illusion. So when I came out, I think, oh, gay people, they're happy. We all get along. And then I find out, oh, they don't really all get along. And they're not the friendliest people at times. And I think this is a shock for many people when they finally come out and they're exposed to the gay community and find out they're not there with open arms like you would think sometimes.
I completely agree with that.
So what was your experience? Like what happened to you when you had your first experience where you came out and you said, hey guys, here I am?
Um, ooh, let me think about this one for a second. I think the biggest wake up call for me about the gay community was when I was out here on my own and meeting up with different guys on Grindr and very lonely, really just wanting to have a friend. I didn't know any other way to meet gay guys. And I would meet with these different guys and we would do things that normal friends would do. And we would just stop hanging out. And I just thought, like, why is this a cycle? Why does this keep happening to me? And it's because I wasn't putting out. I
Mm.
wasn't hooking up with them. And they were under the impression that, they were going to hook up with me or we were going to hook up. But really, I was just looking for somebody to go to Pride with or somebody to go out with on this night because I was really bored. And that started happening more and more and more to the point where it has kind of led me to where I am now in a way where I really don't hang out with many people at all. I hang out with my mom. I'm focused on my business right now and like my career. And I've had my fun with the gay community and being in the scene and getting invited to all the events and the parties and this and that. I realize that there are some guys in the gay community that's where they get their happiness from. It's just the constant partying, the drinking, the hooking up. Just I got so exhausted with that in 2 years of being in it that I realized I'm different than these guys, than a lot of these guys, and I like to live in the suburbs. I like to have calmness and peacefulness around me, and I guess I just felt like exhausted just after 2 years of being in it, like living in it, eating, breathing, sleeping it. I just felt like, is this me? Like, is this even the lifestyle for me? Because as soon as I stopped going out all the time and going to all these parties and this and that and the other, I stopped getting invited to things. And that's normal, of course, because if you're not in the scene and not constantly networking, then, you're out of the loop. But I'm in this place in my life now where I'm trying to just surround myself by more healthy people and healthier energy for me that's not going to distract me or hinder me from where I'm trying to get myself. Because those last 2 years that I was living in Phoenix, it could have went really badly if I didn't have the epiphany that I did, where I realized I need to get out of here. I'm not happy here. I feel unsafe here. I'm drinking way too much and I just feel like crap all the time. And that's when I made the decision to move out of Phoenix and
Yeah.
back to the suburbs.
I have to applaud you, because I think, you had the courage to go, look, you took a look at your life and you go, this isn't what I want. And too often I think that what happens, especially with younger guys, they probably feel very much like you, but they're so afraid of being alone that they're willing to stay in that instead of getting out of it, because they don't want to be alone. So, again, it takes a lot of courage to do that. I was much like you. After 2 years, when I first came out, I was like a kid in a candy store. I mean, it was just, because this is all new to me. And, but after 2 years, I was like you. I'm like, I want more. And it's funny because when you say something like, oh, I want, I like the peace, I like the suburbs, I could see settling down. And then you have, and I've said this often, and if gay people are being honest, they know that what I'm saying is true. But for a community that doesn't like being judged, we are some of the most judgmental people I have ever met on this planet.
Oh yeah.
And the first thing that comes out of people's mouths who get upset with someone like you, because you said, look, I want peace, I want, I like living in the suburbs, I like living a normal life. And they'll say, oh, you're heteronormative. Like, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. It's like, it's okay to be who you are and not have to put other people down because they're not like you. And I find that many of them get stuck in this whole gay thing, to where it's like everything is 24 hours 24/7 gay. It's got to be the
Like that's your personality, that's
right,
all you have to offer.
right,
I know
exactly.
exactly what you're talking about. And I also wanted to touch on one other thing, because you mentioned people and how they treated me after I came out. Another thing I realized when I was living in Phoenix was that I had no real friends. All of these people were using my apartment as a crash pad, because I lived in such a central location that it was a stone's throw away from all the hottest bars and venues and wherever you wanted to go in Phoenix. So that was another thing I realized. And also, I realized that I was a supplier again. I was always paying for the Ubers and paying for brunch and paying for this and paying for that. And of course, people are going to use me up for every last cent, but that's what was happening in high school. So I think now I'm realizing that I need to stop offering so much and just giving so much, because I do have a lot to offer the world, and I don't want to waste that on people that are just using my energy, like energy vampires. So
And
I just wanted to add that in.
yeah, unfortunately, we have and again, that's the world itself. It's not just the gay community, but we do seem to have an awful lot of people like that who will just use you up and go on and move on to the next person. When I came out, I was very fortunate. I was able to find friends because of a guy who I met, who became my very first boyfriend, and of course, his friends became my friends. So I had a good selection of friends that I could call my own. And so, you know, I wouldn't say that, like, I was never rejected or anything like that. It was more like they, even with those friends, they still wanted, their whole life was going out. And like I said, the first 2 years, I want to experience it all. So, that's what was my life was. But then I was like you, I wanted to settle down. I wanted to start dating. I didn't want to just hook up any longer. I wanted to actually know the person's name and things like that and get to know them a little bit. And they were still in that whole, I want to hook up. And it's really not funny. 20 years later, there's several of them that are still doing that same thing. I just want to hook up, and to each his own. If that's what they want, that's fine. But it was almost as if they frowned upon the fact that, I don't know if it's because I could find someone to settle down with, or because I wanted to settle down. I don't know which, because sometimes I think they want that as well, but they sabotage themselves because when they have somebody, they're always looking for the next best thing that's coming along. So
Totally. And I just actually made a YouTube video about this concept of open relationships and how popular they have
that.
become. And I voiced some of my opinions on that subject. And I think that just goes into what you were just saying, because more and more, the more I meet couples, gay and straight, it's like there's either one or both of them that aren't getting the satisfaction out of each other. So one of them has accepted the other one to just go out and, find somebody to hook up with to get off that urge that they're just wanting to work off. But it's just, it's so toxic. Like, I think about things long term, and just, I can be a little bit pessimistic at times and think about the worst possible outcome. But what happens when, that hookup ends? What happens when your spouse falls in love with this hookup? Because
Right.
you never know when that's going to happen. What happens if your spouse starts sneaking around behind your back, even though he knows you're okay with hooking up with this? There's just so many things that could sabotage a marriage. Because the example I was using in my video was two friends of mine who were married still to this day, but one of the husbands has just accepted the fact that the other husband needs to constantly hook up with younger guys because they're in their early 40s, but he can still pull younger guys because he's very attractive. So I think he's trying to like milk that in a way, or he feels maybe that he doesn't want to miss out on a good hookup opportunity, like a life-changing hookup. I don't know, but I think when you choose to be with somebody, are you really with them if you're in an open relationship, or are you guys just friends at that point?
Yeah, I'll tell you, you made some very good points in that video that you did. And I thought it was actually very wise beyond your years. And I saw the comments that some people were leaving when you were talking about it. And I thought, they're just not getting what you're saying. And unfortunately, many of these guys are much older than you and they still don't get it. And I would happen to agree with you a great deal. And again, it doesn't mean that I'm right or you're right or they're wrong or anything like that. But I do see your point, and that, when you love somebody, that whether you're everything, I get that, if you don't match sexually, how that could maybe be frustrating, but I would think you would find a way to get around it. And I don't, and maybe that's that's their easiest answer as well. Let's, have an open relationship. But like you said, it only takes one time, like for instance, like let's say you and I were a couple, and then one day you are upset with me or I'm upset with you, and I hook up with my regular or whatever, and the regular guy is always understanding and he's always easy to get along with and stuff, and I start thinking, oh, why am I not with him? He gets me, sort of.
Exactly. You had a bad day with your husband and now you're
Right.
with this cute young, yeah. Even it's just, I was just going to say a point, but it left my head. So I'm sorry about that. But continue.
So no, so again, you made some really great points, and that's what I love about your channel, because that you talk about things that are, I believe, that are important. Now, in saying that, I will tell you the one that caught my attention the most, though. I'm sure you can probably figure out which one it was.
The older men do it better.
I like that one, but it was
Is it the dating a 75-year-old or
yeah,
70 something?
76-year-old. Yes. I was like, wow. So let's, because one day I'll be there. And so I was like, so, so you dated a 76, you went on a date with a 76-year-old. So what was that like? Not just, I mean, not the, where people go, oh, sexually, but what was it like as far as communicating with that person and being able to relate to them on any sort of level?
It wasn't there. I thought it was there. I thought we had some kind of connection. And I think the only thing that made us feel connected was our love of aviation and flying. And once I started to see his true colors, which was after like the third day of hanging out with him, I started to not take the situation so seriously. But I do have to admit that I was opportunistic in that relationship. He offered to give me free flight lessons, never said that there was any strings attached. My naive mind thought that, oh, okay, this is just an older man that sees something in me and wants to help me. Like, there's people like this in the world. There's angels in the world. I've met them. So it wasn't until our first argument about a trip that I had planned for Vegas. It was planned for 3 months before I even met him. And I was going with a buddy of mine who I've known since I moved here. And as soon as I told him that, he's like, no, you're not going to that. You are not going to that. Like, he was like, you're going to go there and F all these guys and do this. And it's like, that was not even my intention at all. I literally just wanted to have the Vegas experience and stay at the Luxor and go to the pool party. You know, we were only there for 3 nights. I mean, come on. So I thought it was totally out of left field. I didn't know how to handle it because he was full on screaming at me like my father, who can get pretty aggressive at times. I've never had arguments with my father like I did with this older man. And after like the fifth argument, I quit coming around so much, and we started not talking as much, and months would go by and he would be like, let's meet up for brunch, you know, today and talk about some things. And we'd meet up and maybe go flying. And then he would like try to flirt with me and touch on me and stuff. And I was never attracted to him that way. And I thought that he would have understood that I'm not physically attracted to him, but I loved hearing his life lessons that he would tell me. And he would show me pictures of places that he went to and, you know, things that he did before I was even a thought in my dad's mind. And I never had a grandfather growing up. I never had a connection with any of my grandfathers. One of them passed away before I was born. Another one passed away when I was a toddler. So I never had that connection or relationship with an older person that could just tell me the lessons of life and kind of pick up where my dad left off. Because after 5th grade, my dad really just stopped caring about what I was doing. And that was when I started getting into trouble and staying out past midnight at 11 years old.
Wow.
Like, yeah. And not even being asked where I was. Like, it was something that I think built me as a person, because I was forced to go through these tough life lessons through making mistakes and, you know, going through the consequences. But I think that all of that, a mixture of all of that, is what led me to be open to dating this older man.
So may I give you some unsolicited advice, being an older man? Not quite that old, but an older man.
Yeah.
So there, you know, for me, I've only dated young guys only because that's who I'm attracted to, not just physically, but I tend to find guys, especially gay guys, tend to be much more mature at an early age than straight guys. So it's not the same thing, because you go through so much more. You have to live life much faster than a straight guy does. The things that you go through, they're not going to experience those things until they get into their 30s. So you have all this valuable knowledge and experience at such an early age that you come across as being more mature. And that matters to me, that and intelligence. So being who I am, I've been very fortunate that younger guys tend to be attracted to me. You know, the ones who like older guys. Not all young guys like older guys, and I get that, and I don't, I never understand guys who are always trying to get the guy that's not attracted to them to get them to date them. I go, why would you, when there's so many guys out there who like older guys, why are you trying to go, get guys who aren't attracted to them and trying to make them feel guilty for not being attracted to older guys? I'm not attracted to older guys. So, so I understand them. So I've always been very fortunate, but it would never occur to me that if someone was dating me, that he wouldn't be physically attracted to me. So I would say, like, you were looking for a grandfather figure. Now, there's a caveat with this. So
it sounds so crazy. I know.
So I would make sure that they're aware of what, how you feel about them. Because otherwise they could very easily, especially if they've had younger guys before, they could think that you are attracted to them. Now, even with saying that, I also want you to understand that there's going to be times where you go, I'm not attracted to you physically, as far as, sexually, but, I really like your personality or whatever. And you're like a grandfather to me or whatever. There's still guys out there who only hear what they want to hear. They're just going to think I can still bed him, sort of thing.
You hit the nail on the head with that one.
Okay.
Definitely.
So you made it known to him, but he wasn't hearing that.
Yeah, I pride myself in being an upfront and honest person. I'm never wanting, or I never have wanted to be like a sugar baby or dependent on somebody in any way, and I never have been. And I think he also thought that that's what I was looking for. So he would offer to like fix my car, or like I was moving at the time. So he helped me move and helped pay from the U-Haul, just stuff like that, that I just thought was him being nice and, helping a young guy in need, because he is obviously established in his life. He's a retired airline attendant, or not attendant, pilot, sorry. And I just thought, if I can give him a good time in his life, then he can help me out. And I thought that he was getting value out of doing things with me. Like, he rented a boat at the lake one day during the summer and invited some of his friends, and I invited one of my friends, and we had a great day. And he ended up saying, oh, you were looking at this guy and you were talking to all these guys, and it was just always like, it's your fault, you did not have a good time. It was always,
but that should be your first clue. If he's showing jealousy, it's because he thinks you're with him. And that's why he's acting and behaving the way, especially when he told you you're not going to Vegas. I would just look, Grandpa, that's not how this works. So.
That's basically what I said. I said, I'm an adult. I'm going to do what I'm wanting to do. If that's an issue, then we need to have a further a conversation about that. And he just was like, all right, just do it, whatever. It was just one of those things. And then every time something would happen, he would pull it back up. And it was just a very weird dynamic. Like, It's hard. No one writes a book about this, or an instruction manual of like what to do when this happens, or what to do when, a very much older gentleman is just screaming at you and he knows all of your life at this point. So I also felt like I've given so much of myself to him that I didn't want to just like throw it all away.
Right.
Because, the old saying, the best things in life aren't easy and don't come easy. So I just thought, let's just see where this goes,
I've often thought about writing that book since I have a lot of experience in this area, because just like you have older guys who hear what they want, you have younger guys who hear what they want. Because one of the things I always tell anyone I date, I go, look, I want to have a relationship where we have synergy, where we are a team, where we work together to make a great life for us. I have no desire to be a sugar daddy for anyone. I've raised my kids and I don't plan on raising any more kids. I want somebody who wants to work with me, that we work together and we make a great life for ourselves. And I would say out of the different guys I've dated, I've had a few of them who didn't hear that. And so, and even like in, I hired this little twink one day, hired him to, because he had an ad that he was a house cleaner. And I said, okay, well, the lady who I had retired from cleaning, in which I regretted, because I loved her. I wish she would still be doing it today, but she no longer was going to be cleaning houses, so I had to find someone else. So I said, oh well, why don't I have a twink? At least he could be, pleasant to look at while he's cleaning the house. Well, he came over the first day. He brought his cleaning supplies, and he started talking, and he saw there was a, um, not Xbox, but a PlayStation.
PlayStation.
And so he started talking about it, and he started wanting to play a game. And so I was like, okay, well, you could play a game. And he wanted to keep playing. I guess he thought I was going to pay him just to sit there and just play the game. So I was like, when are you going to get started here? And he's like, oh, you really want me to clean the house? I go, yes. So just to say, he never came back. So
Oh gosh, he needs to find a different
right.
platform to promote on.
Exactly. And for all I know, maybe he has now. But so it's that way for many people. They, oftentimes they only hear what they want to hear. And so I'm like you, I'm always very clear about who I am, what I want, and what I'm about, so that there's no misunderstanding. In fact, if you ask anyone who knows me, I will run it into the ground to where it verbatim. And it's like, you've told me that 100 times. I go, yeah, because I don't want you to come back tell me you didn't know. So that's why.
Well, I do remember him asking me over and over again to move in with him. And he lives probably 2 towns over from me now, really close to the airport. And it's a nice area, but at the time I was in Phoenix and I was in the scene and everything. And I just felt like I don't want to give up my independence, but I easily could have. I easily could have moved in with him. And, then I would have really been trapped. I would have really felt like, okay, now I do have to kiss this guy's butt, you know? So I'm glad I didn't do that, because I'm sure many other guys who have been in my position have made that mistake.
There's
So
some people, yeah, I think there's some guys who are okay with that, because they're like, well, I'm getting what I want, he's getting what he wants. So it's almost like a business
right,
deal.
but most of them sometimes are struggling on their own, and they're like, oh, this is much better than where I'm at now, or yeah,
Right.
where I'm living now. But this guy had a really nice house and a pool and a backyard and everything, and dogs and plenty of room for me. And I was living in a 500 square foot studio apartment at the time in ghetto downtown Phoenix. So I just felt like, um, I don't really exactly love where I'm living, but I felt like I'm not going to take the easy road.
Right. And that's
But
and,
something in my head is just telling me, don't do this.
and that's smart, because you're right. It's easy, especially for young guys, to get caught up in the entrapment of it all, to all the nice things, and you think, oh, this could be so great, but they don't realize. And I've talked to young guys about this before, especially dating wealthy guys. And this isn't to say all wealthy guys are bad, because they're not. But wealthy guys get to be wealthy because they're used to being the boss and used to having the reins and taking control. And so when you become part of that relationship, that doesn't change. They're used to being in control. They're going to stay in control. So all of a sudden now you're doing what they tell you you're going to be doing, eating dinner where they tell you you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, what you're going to dress like, and who you can be friends with, and that kind of thing. And if you're okay with that, then fine, as long as you go into it knowing that. But like with you, like, you don't want to have to kiss someone's butt to be able to survive.
Right. And that's never been me. I used to have a friend of mine who, and we were very good friends at the time, but some things he would say would just make me cringe, because it was like his one biggest dream was to find a wealthy guy to like live off
Yeah.
of and be his live-in husband. And I would always give him my opinions on things that he would say, but there are tons of guys in this community that just think that's a reality, and that's what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to work this pays the bills kind of job, in hopes that one day I'll meet somebody who I can just not work, and be a houseboy forever.
Yeah, there's
Kind of like a long-term sugar daddy thing. And
exactly. There's
I
there's
just,
I'm sorry.
I would say, like, okay, what do you have to offer? I'm not going to say that, but I would say, what do you have to offer? Because, you're not college educated. You don't have any inherent skills or talents. Like, you don't really have anything to offer other than your skinny body that's going to be an adult man's body in another like 3 years, and you're not going to have your cute young innocence anymore. So I'm so much a realist when it comes to things like that. And anybody who I'm hanging out with, I try to always voice my opinion and like what I feel that they need to hear rather than what they want to hear. So I've always been that friend, but that is so common in the gay community, is the sugar daddy fantasy thing. And I never had that, but I've definitely met others that think that that's going to happen for them.
I haven't seen them recently, but there have been YouTube channels of these young twinks that talk about their sugar daddies, and I'm with you. I think, okay, that's great for the next few years, but you do realize you're going to get older and you're going to be replaced. It's
And
not
you're going to wake up and you're not going to have any credit. You're not going to have any money invested or
right.
saved.
No
You're not going to have
education.
any skills. Your growth is going to be stunted. So you're not going to have like proper social skills. I've seen this happen firsthand. So that's like a huge reason of why I'm so passionate about disliking the sugar baby, sugar daddy thing. I think it's toxic, and I think it kind of leaves a bad mark on the gay community. I know it's not just for the gay community, but it's very prevalent. So
I don't know if you realize it, but you just did a public service announcement for young twinks, and I hope they listen to you, because it's like, look, what you just said is the reality. If it's because I think, again, you get these young guys and they see, some little twink on there, and he's showing off his jewelry or his watch or his clothes and or the trips that he's taken, and they're going, oh, I want that life. And they don't realize that's such a short life span for a twink. It's like, for most of them, at 25, 26, you're done. And then, and then that guy's going to find another 20-year-old.
right.
And it's, because he's always going to have his money, and he can always get, new twinks, just like the one that he just got rid of. And I think, sometimes they don't think about that.
Well, I think some of them also think it's cute, and they think it's something to show off of, like, oh, look, I don't have to work. I can just like suck this old guy's whatever and, get paid for it. And it's like, that it's so cringy to me. And when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, that's cool, I guess. But now I'm just like, it's sad, it's embarrassing, it's cringy. And I think it's something that should be kept behind closed doors. It's not something that you should be parading all around the world and like, look at me, look at me,
Right.
look at the life I get to live right now. And it's like, maybe when it first came out on YouTube and we started seeing those videos of like, look what my sugar daddy bought me and all this and that, or sugar daddy shopping spree. And it was shocking, but now it's old news. Nobody cares about that anymore. If you're doing that now, it's just like, okay, you're a bum. You need to get off your butt and create something for yourself.
Exactly. I always think how sad, it's just, it is, it's a sad way to live. I think when your biggest goal in life is to let someone else take care of you, that means
Yeah.
you have nothing to offer to society. You don't want to offer anything to society. You just want to mooch off of it. And I don't see any value in a person like that. But anyway, so you decided not to take that route, and I'm glad that you didn't. So that means you have to take care of yourself. So what did you do to do that? I mean, when you're out in Arizona and you go, okay, I'm taking care of myself. So what did you start off by doing?
Well, I'll rewind a little bit back. Before I met the older guy who I dated for a short stint, I was in college my freshman year, and I realized that I was really short on money and I didn't take out enough loans and my dad wasn't supporting me. So I got a job at Baskin Robbins, ended up getting fired from that job. It's the only job I've ever been fired from. And it's because I didn't make the cakes fast enough. I was the cake decorator. And I'm an artist, so I like to perfect my work. I can't just do something half butt and put it out. And you know what I mean? So I think that's what really held me back. But I worked there and then I worked at another job called Cutco, which turned out to be an MLM scam. And then I worked at Home Depot and then I worked at FedEx. So I tried to really make it work with a real job. And I've worked my entire life growing up. I've always had a job because I always wanted my own money. And, after I left Home Depot and I realized that I was going to fail out of school if I stayed at this job, I started going online and I went on Craigslist of all places and I typed in, what should I do? Maybe I should model because people have told me that throughout high school that I should model and even in middle school a little bit. So I'm like, let me just see if there's any like open calls or casting calls or anything. So I type in modeling jobs and then this ad pops up for a website called Flirt for Free. And it's a webcamming website, which was a new concept to me. I knew what it was, but I didn't know what it entailed or how to do it. So I responded to the ad and they responded back to me very quickly and we got set up. And I think the next day I was camming on that website and I would make like $160 a week. I think that was like the most I made. And I thought, oh, wow, I can do like, this is cool. I'm just sitting here and talking to people on my webcam in my dorm room when my roommate was gone. So it was a whole method. And he walked in on me a couple times. I don't think he caught me though, because there was a hallway to the door so I could clean up everything before he got into the room. But that was the first thing I did. And I went home for college. I went home for the summer, and that's when I worked at FedEx. And then I came back to Arizona for my sophomore year. And I went through my first semester of my sophomore year. Everything was good. And then towards the end, I was like getting invited to things. I started meeting more friends, and I had to turn a lot of people down on a lot of different things because I just didn't have the money. And I didn't have a meal plan at this time. I'm giving you all the info just to kind of bring it into perspective.
Right. That's okay. That's what
I didn't have a meal plan at the time, so I was very broke. It was scary to me because I've never been broke like that before, and I felt like I couldn't ask my dad because he wasn't supporting me. My mom has never been good with money ever. So that was out of the question. I didn't know anybody in the town that I was living in. So I just felt like, okay, I need to figure something out. And I realized that I didn't want to go back to Maryland because there's a huge drug problem in the town that I'm from. And I just didn't want to be around that. I didn't want to be around the same people that I grew up around. And it was just a gross thought to me. I didn't want any of that. So I was willing to do whatever it took to stay out in Arizona. So I'm religious. I've always been religious. And I started praying. It was probably a month before that semester ended. And I had to figure out what I was going to do. And I was like, God, just please give me something, give me a blessing or some kind of miracle where I can support myself and stay out here. And I ended up meeting this guy on Grindr probably within that week. And he showed me this webcamming site called Chatterbait, which is very similar to Flirt for Free, but it's very popular. So there's a lot more people on there. You get a lot more eyes watching you. And I just found like a lot of interest in wanting to explore this and see where it took me. So we started webcamming shows together and we did really well together. But I started having this feeling like I could do this on my own. Like I don't need him. I'm better looking than him, in my opinion, too. And he's kind of rude to people online. So I just thought, oh, I'm going to start my own account. he didn't like that, but I was like, whatever, I'm paying you half rent, you know, I'm allowed to do what I want to do. And I started doing really well. And we started not getting along more and more. And I had like 3 months left of the lease. Eventually, I brought the idea to him to maybe join the porn industry, because I thought, okay, what my business mind was on. And I was like, how can I get even more people to come watch me, or more people to like care about me? So I thought, oh, let me do porn. You know, I know there's going to be repercussions on that. I know it's going to stick with me forever. But I also had this feeling of like, sex work and sex in general is becoming so openly talked about more and more that in 5 years, I don't even know. And I don't think porn is going to be looked at the same way as it once was in our society.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
it's
It's changed so much in just the past 20 years. It's like it used to be like that was a death. Like if you, especially if you wanted to get into entertainment of any sorts, like TV or anything like that, you were done. And nowadays, it's not the case.
right. So, um, yeah. So he rejected the idea because he is in the closet, and he said, I'm going to have a family one day and kids and a wife, and I can't have that, and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. And then, yeah, I know. Within a month, I was on my first casting couch for Broke Straight Boys. And that was something that that was a sacrifice for me. When I look back at that part in my life, I relate that to being a sacrifice. I sacrificed my innocence in a way, my dignity in a way, for a greater goal that I had. And I'm living in that now. But there's definitely been repercussions that I've dealt with when I chose to join the porn industry. So I hope that wasn't too confusing of an answer, but I.
All right, so let me ask you this, because I've had Grayson Lang on the show, who's a very popular twink porn star, gay porn star, and the sense I got from him is like there are guys and I've met these guys. I know, I mean, I personally have met these guys who like they want to be in porn, like they're like that's their thing. They're like they have no hangups. It's not any type of negative feelings or anything. They really they go, I want to do this. Like it's something they truly want to do. It sounds more like you were doing it because you had a goal that you wanted to reach, but it wasn't really something that you had your heart into.
Definitely, definitely. But I always give my all into whatever I'm doing. So I made sure to give my best work in each and every shoot that I did, because I understood that that's always going to be on the internet. And I want to at least have my best work up there.
Right. So, all right. So let's talk about the work that you did. So it was another thing that I thought was interesting is that you talked about, topping and bottoming and what it was like to do both. And so again, this is a topic that most guys don't discuss. Like they won't. You talked about how much effort it takes to top and stuff, and like because the top ends up doing a majority of the work in a lot of cases. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, oh, what an interesting take that you had on it.
Yeah, that's true. Most times the bottom is, I don't want to say they're not doing the work, because they still are. The bottoms have to put their work into the preparation. And I think you know what I mean when I say that.
I think everyone does.
Yeah, basically a top can just wake, if they have a scene, say I have a scene in 2 hours. I, as a bottom, would have already probably been showered and getting ready at this time and like doing some workouts to get the blood flowing or something. The top probably would still be in bed, and he would wake up 45 minutes before we start shooting and just take a shower and brush his teeth and go. The bottom, because there's so much emphasis on the bottom's body while they're getting fucked, Sorry,
No,
I mean to.
you can say, look, you're welcome to use any language you want. I don't edit anything, and this is not a PG show, so don't
Okay.
worry about it.
So for me, because the majority of my scenes are of me bottoming, and I always wanted to just make sure that I didn't have any dry skin or um, marks on my body or anything like that. So I always just took as much time as possible to get ready for the scene. But I think when you're topping, it's tough because, we're not meant to have sex in the way that porn is filmed. It's not natural.
Right.
And when you have people around you, people that may not be the most attractive either, that aren't really easy on the eyes. I'm not trying to sound rude by saying that, but when you just have that around you, and maybe this camera guy's been annoying you for the past 2 days, just stuff like that gets into, it's important to not get into your head, but it's almost impossible sometimes. So I think the tops really do have a tough time sometimes when it comes to performing, because either they're not attracted to the model or they're not having a good day, when the bottom can just lay there and
Right.
and just do the cute faces and everything, but the top has to be in it. And if they're not breaking a sweat, like, people can read that through the screen. So yeah, that's my perspective.
I know with Grayson Lang, he talked about, because he as much as he bottomed, he often would flip flop, or he would top in some of his in some of the videos. But he would always talk about when he had the bottom. He said he would never eat before his shoot, and by the time
Yeah.
the shoot was done, he was starving. Like,
Oh,
he
I'm
never.
I'm glad you said that, because that's a huge thing, a huge thing. It's important that you don't have dinner the night before or breakfast either, because you just want to have the confidence inside of you, and
Right.
you want to know that there's not going to be any droplets or any debris coming out, because a lot of times you're using white bed sheets, um, and you're just in very close proximity to your partner. So it's just, you don't want to risk being embarrassed or humiliated like that. I've seen it happen on set. I've definitely seen it happen to tops even. Things have happened where it's, just bodily functions and stuff like that, where we had to kind of stop and come back to the scene. But that was very tough for me, because I'm the kind of person where if I don't have food in my stomach every 2 hours, that's when I eat. That's my normal eating schedule. It's like a small meal every 2 hours. If I don't do that, I get cranky. And I'm a redhead too, and I'm also a Taurus. So I get cranky. I'll get like, I don't want to say aggressive, but it's like, don't play with me when I don't have food in my stomach, because I will run you down like a bull. And I would voice some of that sometimes to different producers and stuff if they were taking so long and I still had a scene I needed to film. And it's just part of the job. You just have to accept that as part of the job,
So
if
do
you're
you
gonna bottom.
do you think that from doing porn, because one of the things, like with me and being older, and I know that younger guys they they're more concerned and worried about about everything being perfect. For me, whenever I'm with someone, I go, look, you know this is life, things happen. If something happens, I'm not overly concerned about it. I go, especially if you're with anybody, with somebody for any length of time, you're gonna have things that happen that are out of your control. And it's like, so what? It's just, it's life. And
Right.
so I've learned not to be concerned about that kind of stuff. But I do notice that younger guys are more concerned about it than maybe older guys. Do you
Well,
think that
yeah, and it's
helps
it's
you?
completely different when you're on a set and you have
Right.
5 lights around you and it's so bright and everybody can see everything and there's somebody recording you when you did it. It's a lot different than if you're in the privacy of your own bedroom and the
So
lights are off.
in the privacy of your own bedroom now, are you less concerned about anything that happens, or do you think that's because of experiencing these things
Yeah,
that you're like, yeah, whatever, you know?
well, for one, I don't hook up much anymore, mainly because I have trust issues with meeting different guys and them telling me their history and stuff like that. And then also being here, when I do hook up, I only will hook up and offer to hook up if I know I'm good to go. If I'm not sure, or if I just got back from a big barbecue feast, not doing it. But there are some guys that are like, yeah, let's do it. Like, I want to do it anyway. No, that's not me. If that is the case and I do have food on, if I did just eat a big meal, then I'll offer to like give head or something like that.
Right. Okay. So you found that doing porn wasn't really what you like, your heart wasn't into it. And so where did you go from that? Because I'm taking it you don't do porn anymore, or am I wrong?
No, I don't do professional porn for studios anymore, but I still have my OnlyFans account where I post every single day. And I do daily webcam shows on Chatterbait still to this day. But
I have never seen you. I watch Chatterbait all the time, and I have never. I can't believe I have not seen you. Honestly,
I would be on it Monday through Wednesday, I'd be on it 9 to 11 a.m. And then Thursdays and Fridays, I'm on 2 to 4 p.m. So I'll be on it 2 today, my time.
two. So that's 5 my time. Okay, maybe that's why I'm not usually on it. I mean, because I have it on throughout the day. It's not like I watch it all day, but because of what I do for a living, I have
Yeah.
plenty of downtime, so I can go there, and oftentimes my best friend laughs because I'll be eating lunch or dinner or whatever, and it's entertainment to me. So it's not like I have to be doing something, but just
No, that's what I have found is, there are tons of people that are in the same place that you are, where it's nice to have a little bit of conversation here and there
right,
throughout the day, or just to have that, I'm going to see Richie tomorrow morning, and maybe, he said he's going to do this. So that's something I'm looking forward to, even though I'm going to be at work. It's just things like that. And I've really created such a close-knit community over there. And I've found out a way to make it stable as an income source. And I really love doing my webcam shows. I never used to enjoy doing them as much as I do now, but the more that I have treated it like a job and been professional and taken the time to prepare and invest to make my shows the best that they can be, it's really paid off for me. So you should definitely check me out sometime
I
on
will.
there.
I can't believe, like I said, I can't believe I haven't found you on there already. I will definitely check you out. Um,
But
there's two things I wanted to say about when you were doing porn, because the biggest turnoffs that I find for porn is, for me, is that one, I'm not a big fan of feet. So especially if a guy has not clipped his toenails, or if his hands are like he chooses fingernails, or they have grime or something, I go, look, you have this beautiful guy with a beautiful body. Could someone not have gone, hey, we need to like file down his his
yeah,
fingernails or toenails or something to make it, presentable, or put some socks on him or something. I don't know. So,
right.
but have you ever run into models like that you just go, oh, I don't want him putting his hands on me because they're grimy or something?
Definitely. I mean, smokers, that was a big thing
Oh,
for me, was the
yeah,
cigarette smokers. You know, you feel like you shouldn't have to tell somebody or ask somebody to brush their teeth after they just got
right.
done smoking a cigarette and they're about to make out with you for the next 2 hours and like put their mouth all over you in different places, because it makes your saliva smell like that too. It's not just your breath, it's like
Right.
everywhere your mouth goes. It's the most putrid smell to me. And I don't think I've ever said this anywhere else online, but I used to smoke cigarettes in high school and I quit when I moved here. And now I cannot handle the smell anymore. I can smell it from 10 miles away. And there's been multiple times where I've had to ask the scene partner to go rinse out with Listerine at least, or go brush your teeth. Most of the time they just rinse out with Listerine, which just makes their
Right,
mouth
have
taste like
Listerine and
Listerine.
smoke
And,
it together.
yeah,
It's
but you know,
really,
that's just part of the job that I just sucked it up, and I was like, okay, well, this is what I have to deal with. It's not that bad.
well, I remember you saying also something when I was first talking to you about coming on the show. You said something about, you know, the difficulty of working for yourself, but even though it is difficult because now you don't have that paycheck that's coming in every week, but you said something about being on the porn site and the guy telling you something you could or couldn't do, and you're like, you know what, I'm done with someone telling me what I can and can't do. And so you were like, you know, I'm done with this. So
Yeah.
you want to relay that story, as far as, you know, what made you decide to get out of porn completely and go into doing your OnlyFans?
So when I got back from a shoot this this year, it was the last shoot I went to actually. I've been kind of making videos on my YouTube up until this point about my experiences on different shoots that I went on and good scenes that I had, because I was hoping that that would also drive up traffic to these different studios, which would in turn help them. So I never had an issue with this with any of the other studios that I worked for, until I made a video about how good of a scene I had, just, you know, despite it not being a good shoot week, and I was not wanting to go to the shoot and I almost canceled it. And I was just happy that I had a good scene that I knew was going to be good, because when you've been doing it for this long, you know what scenes are going to turn out good and which ones they got the good angles and everything. And I was just proud and I was excited. And that evening, I got a text saying that some of the fans have been reaching out to the producers of that studio saying that they knew who I was working with, when I didn't say anybody's name. All I said was that they looked like a Disney prince. That's literally all I said. And then he was like, you signed your contract and you're going against us by saying this and that and the other. And now this is making it tougher for us because we have to hurry up and edit your video quicker than we normally would. Just something like that. And it was like, okay, I don't even have the patience to to entertain this. So what I did was I made the video private. You know, I accepted that, if that's what they wanted to do. Also, the video was doing really well at the time. It, like, very, very well. It was getting tons of views. And I think that kind of scared them in a way too, because they realized that I'm not like their other models. Like, I have a lot going on. Like, I have influence, I have power. I'm not just like some guy who comes out to shoot once in a while and is working a different job back at home. No, like, I think I threatened them by showing that I've really created something for myself and I'm not just some regular person. And I think when they reprimanded me and told me that you can't do this because we don't want you to, that's when I was like, I'm done. Goodbye. Because no one's going to tell me what I can post on my YouTube channel, other than YouTube, of course. No one's going to tell me what to talk about when it comes to my story or things that I experienced. So after that, I made another video where I just cleaned my hands of the situation. And I was like, you know what, guys? I know a lot of you follow me because of my porn experience and my porn work, but I hope that more of you can continue to follow me on this journey, because I'm done with the studios. Like, this is detrimental. And it was coming. It was a little while coming. You know, it was a little bit of a buildup, because thankfully, I'm not in such financial ruins where I was when I first started. I'm not in financial ruins at all. I'm doing really well for myself. It's just hard for me to come out and say that and just say, I'm doing well, I'm successful. Like, I'm still working on that. But, you know, I work really, really hard. And I think, if anything, working in the porn industry has taught me that you need to work so hard to create anything that you want for yourself, because if you don't, bad things will happen. So when I had that epiphany where I realized, you know, just like we're talking about the sugar baby thing, once I turn 27, 28, 30, no one's going to want to work with Richie West anymore. No one's going to hire me. No one's going to fly me out here and there to do these scenes. I'm going to be a has-been. And then what? Then what? I start over. I go back to school. Hopefully I have money saved up from these shoots that they're still making money off of forever, ever.
Right. There's
So,
there's ways to do it. I mean, it's not for everybody, of course, but obviously there are different, if you were to try, I think the mistake is that Twinks tried to stay Twinks. It's like that's impossible. You're not going to remain a twink forever. So
mhm.
if you're able to do something like um Brent Corrigan, for instance. Brent Corrigan back in the early 2000s was the twink, and then he became like this little muscle guy now, and so he's transitioned into like a hunk, I guess you would say. And so, but that's Brent Corrigan. This is his life. He loves being in front of the camera. In fact, he had quit porn and he couldn't stay out in front of the camera, and he got back into it because it's what he loves doing. If he's being honest. And so there's ways to do it, but it's not every twink can become, muscular because they don't have the build or the frame or things of that nature, or they just don't like working out and don't want to become that. So,
Right.
but yeah, so it's much wiser to do what you're doing, I believe.
Well, you would want to have to stay in the porn industry for that to even work. And
Right.
I just know that I have so much to offer than just my naked body behind a camera. And I've proven that to myself. So, that was the gasoline in my engine to keep me going and to fuel me to achieve these goals. And even though it's going to be difficult and I'm not going to have, the extra porn checks coming in on certain months, that's totally fine with me because I didn't need them anymore. So, and I also, I will say, I did transition a little bit into the twunky thing, but as you said, different body types are different. I'm a tall guy. I'm like 6'2".
Yeah.
I'm an endomorph, so I'm tall, kind of lanky, as people would say. And yeah, I have a very fast metabolism. I don't put on weight at all, really, unless I'm drinking beer and just being lazy. And in that case, I'll just get a gut.
Right.
But like the arm, like you can see my arms are very long. I have very long limbs. And I used to be ashamed of that, but I'm not anymore. I know that I'm a good looking guy. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I did damn well in the porn industry and I made it last. I could have stayed in there. I could have still been doing these shoots, but I just felt like I needed to listen to my heart, what my heart was telling me. And it was just the only way I can explain it. It was like drowning my soul. It felt like a black cloak was just like pulling my soul down and like my life force. And I was just ignoring that because I was getting money in return for it.
Right.
So some guys are capable of seeing through that and just charging through. Me, I have to be proud of what I'm doing. I have to be on board and aligned with what I'm doing. And I'm just not aligned with getting paid to have sex with guys that I might not be attracted to.
Right. Well, and again, it's kudos to you for being able to see that because a lot of people couldn't. And there's something you had just said that I want to make a point, because you made it was a very good point that you made, that you're not embarrassed of your arms anymore. You're not ashamed of it because, like you said, you're not everyone's cup of tea, but there are people out there who are attracted to you. I knew a guy who was 6'5" and he had skinny arms and stuff. He was really a good looking guy, like a good looking guy, but he would never leave the house without wearing 2 or 3 shirts. Now, he lives in Florida. It's hot here all the time. And so I can't, I mean, I guess because he's so skinny, he could get away with wearing the 2 or 3 shirts and still be okay. Me, I'd been sweating to death. But I was like, but he thought if he layered his shirts, it would make him look like he was thicker. And I was like, you don't need to do that. I promise you there are guys out there, and this is what I want people to understand who are listening or watching this episode, is that no matter who you are, I promise you, there are people out there who will be attracted to you. It may not be, it may not be me or you or whoever, but there will be somebody out there who finds you attractive, and and what they're really going to be looking for is your confidence and whether you have self confidence. That's I tell people this all the time. People are attracted to people who are confident in themselves. That means more than what they look like. And if you're confident in who you are, I dated a guy one time who was nothing like if we took my type, he was not my type at all. But he was such a confident person. And he was so different from anyone I ever dated. I just was enamored with him. I was like, he's so original. And I just fell in love with him as a person. And so it just goes to show that it's not all about the physical look and what you think that physical look is supposed to be like.
Right.
So
I kind of agree with well, not agree, but I can relate to what your friend would do wearing the two shirts. Because when I first, well, even still to this day, sometimes if I'm going to like the grocery store or somewhere like the mall, like I'll wear a trucker hat or some kind of baseball cap because I feel like it helps me not stick out as much. And it might sound kind of like narcissistic to say this, but I feel like I stand out everywhere I go. And my mom has said things about it, like people looking at me, and it's not like flirty look. It's like, whoa, like he looks crazy, like my bright orange hair and like my super pale skin and just how tall I am and skinny. Like that's something that I still struggle with a little bit. And I know some of it's in my head, but I feel like I'm so striking. So I think wearing the baseball cap makes me feel like I fit in more, like I'm just some average straight dude, or whatever. So it's weird to think about, but I do that sometimes. So I understand where your friend was coming from.
right. Right. So now you do Chatterbait, you have your OnlyFans account, and you have your YouTube channel. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
My YouTube is the Richie West.
Okay.
Just Richie West. You could type that in on YouTube. My OnlyFans is onlyfans.com/the Richie West. And my Patreon is patreon.com/Richie West. I only had to add the because somebody took Richie West from me on OnlyFans. So I never found out who that was. But yes. And then I am currently working on a website right now, which is westnovelties.com. It'll be launched and live before the end of the month. I'm just waiting on some other things with that before I can get it going. But on that website, I will be selling paintings, which is something I wanted to touch on in our conversation because.
Let's touch on it now then.
Okay. Well, I started painting around the same time that I joined the porn industry because I felt like I just needed another outlet. I was already working out. I was hiking. I was like, what else can I do to like take some of this anxiety away from me? So I started painting, and I started out with oil paints, and I loved the way that they were turning out, but I didn't create them to sell them. I just created them for a hobby and for me to enjoy. And it was something that I would do after working and coming home from errands and getting ready to go to bed. Like that's something I would do. And before this, I never really cared about art that much. I never devoted any of my time to it. I didn't have an art room in my house growing up, or like really any art other than doodles in my notebooks and stuff like that. But I always enjoyed art class, always, even all throughout school. So I started painting in hopes to just kind of, channel my mind a little bit and calm down. And then as soon as I started on Twitter and webcamming and talking about it, people were showing interest because I would say, look what I'm working on right now, guys. Do you like this? And, here and there, people would message me, send me an email asking, hey, can you paint this? Or, hey, can I buy that from you? Or I really like this. Or they'd send me a picture. Can you recreate this? And more, it's just molded into what I'm doing now, which is painting. Like I'm an artist, and it's kind of crazy for me to say, but I treat it the same way as I did when I first started it. It's a great stress reliever. It helps me feel grounded and kind of disconnected at the same time from the world, which is a great feeling. And just when people send me pictures of my paintings hanging on their wall in like their bedroom or their living room, that's the most fulfilling feeling ever. I love that. And it's what keeps me going. But that's what I'm going to be offering on my website is paintings. I'm going to be doing a design of the month, which is going to be a dedicated design that are going to be recreated, hand painted each time on a 9 by 11-inch canvas. And then I'll be doing other like customized paintings or one-of-a-kind paintings and stuff like that. And then I'm going to be getting into selling my candles. So I'm still going through the testing phase. I have a couple of fragrances that I know I'm going to be selling for sure, but I'm still trying to find a couple others. You can probably see in the back corner, that's one of the candles burning. But these are my candles. And I don't know if
Morning juice.
Yeah, morning juice. That is I don't know if that's the full name yet of it, but I'm still working on this scent right here. But basically, I just wanted to offer something for my fans to hold. And if they don't like paintings, I know not everybody is like, oh my gosh, about paintings or any kind of artwork, but who doesn't like candles? Like, who doesn't have a candle somewhere in their house?
Right.
So that was my idea. And I also just wanted to feel like I was self-sufficient and in my own world. Like, nobody can take this from me. So, and when I was in porn, I did not feel like that. I felt like I'm at the producer's mercy of whenever they want to bring me out. And I just don't like that. I don't like having to wait on somebody to make their mind up or waiting to hear any kind of communication from them. Like, I'm very much a march to the beat of my own drum kind of person. So,
well, by the looks of it, you're an entrepreneur is what you are. And entrepreneurs never like working for other people.
Yeah, I don't even see that in my life at all.
Right.
At all. So it's either this way or the highway.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know if you can see, I have wrong way over there. There's a painting right there of a rhino. I have a thing for rhinos. So if you ever paint a rhino, let me know. I want to take a look at it. So,
okay.
I know you gave one of your paintings away of an eggplant to one of your viewers from YouTube, right?
Do you want to know a funny story about that? That guy never reached out to me.
What?
It's been a month. I told myself I'd give it a month and then I'm going to announce another winner because I gave it a month and I was like, hey, this is, Timothy Chandler, I think his name was, you're the winner. Nothing. So maybe I did it the wrong way. Maybe I should have advertised that this is the giveaway video more. And maybe that's what I'll do in the next one. But, it's been a month now. So
yeah.
I know there's tons of other people that are going to want that. But yes, the giveaway idea I thought would be a great way for people to, just feel connected to my video or feel like there's something at stake or something that they could possibly win. Just brings up excitement.
I thought it was a great idea. It is. It's a way to connect and become more intimate with your audience. And I think you have a good grasp of that.
And real quick, I want to say the eggplant, the reason I chose to make an eggplant is because on my YouTube, when I would talk about hookups and really any part of the male anatomy, I would say eggplant because you just can't come out and say dick or like, penis. I don't like that word either. I try not to ever use that word. It sounds gross to me, but I say eggplant, like his eggplant was so big, stuff like that.
Okay. And that was a big eggplant that you painted, by the way. So.
It was. I should have brought it in here. Gosh, I would have flashed it up right now.
What kind of reactions have you had on your YouTube channel as far as comments go? Is it mostly favorable? Do you have there's people out there who are homophobic who still have to say something negative or leave some, nasty comment or something just simply because you're gay, or what's it like as far as your comments go?
I would say overall, my comments are supportive and receptive of what I'm saying in the video. There are some here and there that are just blatantly like, did you even watch the video? Like,
Right.
I'm not even gonna look at that anymore. But I don't delete comments because I think it's healthy to have the different viewpoints under the videos. I don't really understand why some YouTubers or creators will go down under their posts and delete every single negative comment to where every comment is just a blowing smoke up their butt. That's not realistic, and people can see right through that. So
Exactly.
that's something I never wanted to do, but there are sometimes, I will say, some comments that bother me are just the overtly sexual comments. Some people just don't realize that this is YouTube. Like you can't be talking about cum and jizz and your tight hole and how much you love to get fucked. And it's like, dude, watch my video. Do I use that language at all?
Right.
No. So comments like that, sometimes they're like constructive comments too, but just the language that these people use, I can't approve that comment. They go straight to a folder on my channel called held for review because they're inappropriate. And they have those keywords in them that YouTube automatically withholds from the general public. So I do wish people would be a little bit more, a little less sexual when it comes to my YouTube comments. But other than that, I'm very grateful for my subscriber base, my fan base over there. Um, the majority of my followers are men that are 55 and older. So
Which is
that's
why
some,
I'm sure the episode that you did, how older men do it better, I'm sure that one did well for you. So
yeah, that did do
we
well.
do like to
But
have
that
our
was
ego
true.
stroke.
Uh-huh.
I said we do like to have our egos stroked, especially by a good-looking young man. So,
Oh. Well, I'm glad you liked it. That was a fun video to make for sure.
yeah, I understand what you're saying about people using language and stuff. Like I'll never understand people who go on Facebook and put naked pictures up and stuff and make these rude comments. And I go, you do know this is Facebook. This isn't Grinder, I don't, and yet it's as if they're using Facebook as Grinder. And I got to a point where I would always get all these friend requests, and before, and I would accept them just to accept them. And then before they even say one word to me, they are sending me dick pics in Messenger. And I'm going, why do you think I want this? Why did I ask for this? Well, I mean, what about me made you think I wanted to see your dick? And why would you think Facebook was the place to send it to me? This again, it says if they have no boundaries, and everything's supposed to be sexual, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. It's like I don't get why they can't have boundaries and go, yeah, maybe this kind of speech is okay for Grinder. It's not okay for YouTube,
Well, the only reason I say that it bothers me with the sexualized comments is because it negatively affects my YouTube channel.
Right.
When that is over and over and over again, it becomes part of the algorithm, and YouTube sees that. So they don't put my videos in different places where I could get, a wider array of eyes. They keep them in the videos of the guys coming out and the hookup stories, and that's fine and everything. But I do think I have much more to offer than just talking about my hookup stories. My dog's having his little nightmares. Do you hear that?
I don't.
Oh, okay. He's like, he does this like moan thing here and there sometimes.
When
He
he's
has
having a bad
nightmares.
dream.
Yeah.
One of the other episodes I want to talk to you about, because leads into this question. Um, are you single, or are you dating someone? Because you had a video of saying something about a boyfriend. I did not get to watch that one to find out what the result was. So I don't know if you still have that boyfriend or not, and if you have a boyfriend now. But I know that the people out there who are watching and listening are going to want to know, is Richie single or is he taken?
I'm single and I don't see any guys on the forecast, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And right now, my love is building my business and seeing it come into fruition. That's what I have my heart set on right now, not putting myself out there and getting back into the rat race and competing with other guys for this guy, because everybody's talking to multiple people. You're not the only one that they're talking to.
Right.
And I'm not ready to just be in that game again yet. So I want to be in a place in my life where I have more to offer. Like I have a home, I have a nice car to show up in, I have just nicer things than I have now. I want to be more set in my life, if that makes sense.
It does, but just make sure they have the same things. Otherwise, you'll go back to being the one who's always giving, always giving.
Yeah, like a sugar daddy. I'm not going to do that.
So if another, let's say, entrepreneur walked into your life and said, "Hey, we have a lot in common," I know people are going to go, "Okay, so what is your type?" And it seems to me, I'm just going to guess that you don't have one particular type, even though you say older guys do it better. My guess is that you probably like young guys and old guys, but maybe, or older, I should say older guys, for different reasons. But what would be your ideal type?
Clean cut, like knows how to clean themselves up and go to a nice restaurant and wear a nice outfit. Successful, driven, motivated for life, not lazy in the slightest. And that's it. Fit. I like somebody who's fit, but that goes into not being,
Right.
Having an active lifestyle and stuff like that. But when it comes to looks wise, I can't think of anything that I would rule out.
Just don't smoke.
Yeah. And you know what? I might even be able to date a smoker, but just make sure that your mouth is deeply cleaned every time before it comes near me, please.
So, okay, so I'm not going to ask you your affiliation politically, but could you date somebody of the opposite party?
Yeah, I could. Mm-hmm. I really hate how divided we've become on that subject. So
I agree.
I don't think we need any more division when it comes to viewpoints that people have in our society.
And one of the things I really do my best at trying to get to people to understand is that neither side care about us. They're both screwing us over, and if we and they're getting us to fight amongst each other, to where we don't realize what's going on. We're fighting for people who aren't benefiting us, and I go, how did we get to this point? To where we're picking a side, almost like we do our football teams or baseball teams.
It's become a game. It's like it's insane to me, but I don't even want to think about that because just the past couple of years, living in downtown Phoenix in peak COVID and during the BLM marches and having things thrown at my apartment, telling me to get out of my apartment. If I'm not with them, I'm against them. It was traumatic. So it was like a huge angry mob. It was so scary to me. It was so scary. And that was like, wow, I'm not staying here any longer. Like I don't belong here.
Right.
But luckily things settled down after that. And I do want to say that, I do think that the BLM movement had solid roots when it first came about, but with politicians and funding and fundraising, it's been twisted into something that I don't think anybody wants to be a part of anymore.
I agree. It became corrupt, like everything else. When money's involved, it became corrupt. And I
don't know about everything else becomes corrupt, but like
if money's involved, where people can make money, just like they did with BLM, and we're talking millions, it becomes it no longer is what it started out as. it becomes something else, like a monster almost.
Right. And it's heartbreaking to see something like that happen to
Right.
such a deep rooted cause, to just see it go left like that and really nobody care or bat an eye about it. Like, oh, whatever, well,
Right.
the white people do it too. So it's
Yeah,
just like, you know,
I agree. I'll get you off of politics though.
thank
I
you.
know we could go down that rabbit hole, and I don't want to take you down there. I want us to have a good time. So
Yeah. And see how like it
yeah,
immediately just,
and it does it to everybody because again, we're in such a polarized society right now that there's I don't know. Well, let's talk about something else. How about this? What is something that you could reveal on this show that you've never revealed about yourself anywhere else, so that your listeners, your followers, your viewers may not even know about you? What is something that would surprise people?
hmm, I love Heart, the band Heart.
Really?
Yes, I
from
do.
from the 70s?
Yes, and I actually saw them, well, Nancy and Ann
Right.
live a couple years ago here, and that was the most magical experience for me because my dad had a record player and he had all these old records, and I remember their Dog and Butterflies record vinyl that I would just play on repeat, and playing their song on Guitar Hero on PlayStation, Barracuda. And I think when I finally got to see them, it was like, wow. And I also think that I might have died in the 80s in my past life, because, or 70s or 80s, something like that, because I've just always had such an attraction to retro 80s music. Um, the way people looked, the way things were. Whenever I see a movie that was filmed there, I'm just like in awe at how simple things seem to be. Like I love that. Just the old cars and everything, the music, the hair, the way people talk to each other, even though I don't know anything about what it was like. I'm just going off of what the movies say. But that's the only thing I can think of that when people would be surprised to hear about me, because I've shared so much of myself on the internet,
Right.
so much. And of course, I'm not going to share my deepest, darkest secrets
Right.
because they're my deepest, darkest secrets. But I would say that people would be surprised to know that I like 80s music more so than today's music, mainly because of something that I've noticed, in that the frequency of 80s music, when I say 80s music, I'm talking about like you spin me right round, baby, right? Just all of those hits, all of that. Or I feel for you, I think I love you. All of those songs, they're just so upbeat and they just get me going. They make me feel happy, even if I'm working on something. The second I'll say for my speaker to turn on like top hits of today's music, it's like whiny, it's my broken heart, and oh, and just drowning me down. Even if I'm like, Alexa, play. Well, let me not say it because she's really gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'll be like,
You get
play
copyrighted.
up. Yeah, just be like, play upbeat music, and then she'll start playing this depressing stuff, and it's like a popular song because I've heard it, but I'm like, ew, who likes this? Like, why did all of my generation's music sound like this? Is this the reason that we all are like so depressed and hate each other? you
I
know?
I truly believe it's a big part of it, because you're right. Because in the 70s and 80s, our music was more uplifting. It was more fun. That's it. That's the, like, when you listen to bands like Earth, Wind, and Fire, for instance, you can't listen to an Earth, Wind, and Fire song and not get up out of your seat and want to dance. You just can't. And there
Yeah.
was all that kind of music. And I think the greatest musicians ever were basically from the 70s to the early to mid 80s. And it's just it's like you said, it's uplifting. It makes you want to have fun. And it's not that the 70s and 80s didn't have their, their challenges and their difficult times and stuff, but we handled things differently. It wasn't all a life and death like it is today. We weren't so divided. We had our different opinions, but we could still get along and go out together and play ball together or whatever. It wasn't like, oh, now you don't see things exactly the way I see them, so now I have to hate you.
And now you're canceled and you
right.
never have the ability to support yourself or your family just because you made a mistake.
Or just because you don't agree with them. I see that in the gay community, and or I should say in the LGBTQ community. I see that we could come up with the most ridiculous ideas, and if you don't support them, then all of a sudden you have the entire community coming at you.
You're anti this or you're
Right.
anti that.
Yeah.
You can see that right on TikTok. I mean, it's just crazy, some of the reasoning these people come up behind their statements. Like a lot of what I've noticed and a lot of what I try to ignore at the same time is, I don't want this to come off wrong, but the way that the non-binaries and the gender fluids and the gender non-conforming and the I identify as they and it and this and that and the other, it's like, where is this coming from? Like, why is this just another bandwagon that people are hopping on?
Okay, so
and connecting it to the gay community because it's like already there and it's easy to latch on to. That makes me feel like I don't relate to a trans person. I don't understand why they are considered the same type of person in a way that I am. I don't relate to a trans person. I've never wanted to be a woman. I've never saw myself that way. So I think that's something that bothers me a little bit. And it makes me feel like I have to maybe fit into this puzzle piece of a person in order to have friends in the gay community or be accepted and supported in the gay community. And that's just like,
well, and I think that you make a good point. What I wanted to do is, I don't want you to get yourself canceled. I don't want I don't want people coming after you. Let them come after me, because I don't care one way or the other, honestly. And so I don't mind saying the non-binary stuff is bullshit. I'm going to tell you right now, it's bullshit. These are people who want attention, and they weren't getting any, and so making up all these pronouns and stuff to make themselves feel special, that's what it
real
comes
quick,
down
let me
to.
just say this. The only reason I'm passionate about this subject is because something happened to me at an event here in Phoenix called Rainbow Fest a couple years ago. And I was talking to somebody and I accidentally referred to them as him because she looked like a man to me. That's like and I didn't know her, so I didn't know. It was my first time meeting her, and it was like the second sentence I said, she hit me right in broad daylight, yeah, across the face, and I was like taken back. I was like, what? And I was talking about the most innocent. I was like asking them about what town they lived in or something, or talking to her friend about what town they lived in, and it was out of left field. And she just walked away, and it was
so
I couldn't believe that that was the violence was so like ready to just hit me just because of that, when all I wanted to know this person. I was interested in like getting to know this person, maybe being friends. So that was shocking.
Let me say this. All right, I do have trans friends, and they are real trans people who are really trans. They would never do that. They're so understanding. They realize that people make mistakes, and they don't get up. They don't fly off at the handle unless someone's being blatantly disrespectful to them. And even then, they might say something, but they would never think to strike someone because of it. There are so many people out there who are pretending to be trans for one opportunity or another Leah Thomas. I've already done a thing on her, and I don't even, I don't even know why I call her because I don't even feel that she's a she. But there are too many people out there who are willing to hurt the trans community and make them look bad because they want to feel special. Like this person who hit you, why did that person, unless that person was, like you said, looking to be offended, and that's what some of these people do.
And they were in front of their friends too, so they probably felt like they wanted to show off and be
I would
like,
have
oh,
knocked I would have knocked the hell out of he, she, or whatever the hell it was.
There
and
was cops and everything around. I couldn't do that. Like you know,
I have no respect for those people.
But after that happened, I was like, okay, I'm done being this innocent little sunshine, Mr. Sunshine. No, I'm not gonna let anybody ever do that to me ever again. That was so shocking to me.
One of the things I talk about also in the episode I did about Leah Thomas, I said, one of the things about the left and one of the things about the LGBTQ community in particular is that we tend to be more caring, understanding, loving, empathetic, where we tend to want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And that can be a strength, but it's also our weakness, because as a whole, I believe that more the LGBTQ community believes the way we do, but they stay in silence because they don't want to be confronted the way this person confronted you. And even though you didn't even confront this person, they just, went off the rails. They're so afraid to say anything because they're afraid they'll be attacked. And this is what militant extremists do. They put fear into people's hearts so that they won't talk back. They won't argue. They won't debate. They won't, call them out on their bullshit. Right. And I just have no fear whatsoever of them. And because they don't have truth, facts, or anything else.
Religions, right? Religions do the same thing.
Well, that's the point I make. I said, even with this thing like this, there's a bill.
Is it a religion?
Right. It is. It's a cult. That's what it is. Because, recently Florida just passed this law and the extremists called it this don't say gay bill. And it's not what it's called, but that's what they named it because they knew it would upset people. But what it came down to is telling teachers you cannot speak about different gender identities or non-binary, gender fluid, whatever nonsense that they created to kids who are between kindergarten and third grade. That's it. And people were up in arms like, oh, you're trying to eliminate us. No, that's not what it is. It's saying that you can't put a trans flag and take the American flag down out of your classroom, put the trans flag up so that kids can ask you, so you can start going on your little tangent.
It's a little disturbing how badly people want to start talking about those kinds of subjects. To children, toddlers at such a young age like that.
And then they want to say, oh, we're not grooming. Yes, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Textbook definition.
Right, exactly. It's like, it's like some pedophile saying, oh, I'm just talking to this little kid just because, I want to tell them what it's like to be a pedophile, so that they could maybe be a pedophile. And it's like, it's the same.
And I don't want to come off wrong in this video because I have trans friends as well. Like, just like you said, I still have a friend group up in Phoenix. I just don't see them as much as I used to, but I am not anti-trans at all or transphobic. I just hate how hated everybody is. Like, everybody hates each other. It's like you can just feel it in the air sometimes, it's certain days are more hateful than others, but I wish that we could have more patience with each other, more understanding. Just that person hitting me like the way that they did, what did that solve? What did that teach me? That didn't.
Right. All it does is make you not like them anymore, and that's what they're doing that's what they're doing overall. And this is why I say these extremists are hurting the trans community, because they do not represent the majority of trans people, people who are really trans. They're hurting the trans community to push their agenda, and that's all. And they don't care. And I wish people in our community would wake up and say, yeah, we're done with your nonsense. I wish the trans community would come out and speak up against them. But even when they do, they start calling trans people, actual trans people, transphobic. Jesus,
This could be a whole conversation, but
Yeah.
is there a next subject you wanted to
Yeah,
move to?
no, what I wanted to do is talk about Heart, because I was like, that's what I really want to talk about, because, you know, I don't know if you saw Heart at the Kennedy Center for Led Zeppelin, and they were honoring Led Zeppelin, and Ann and Nancy were up there playing Stairway to Heaven, and they sounded freaking amazing. I was like, all these years later, and that voice is just as powerful as it's ever been, and as beautiful as it's ever been.
Mm-hmm. You know who opened up for them?
Who?
Joan Jett.
Really? Now,
I
how
saw
did she?
Joan Jett, and I
How
will
did?
say her voice, she brought the house down.
Wow.
Ann and Nancy still have it for sure, but Joan Jett on her by herself, nobody can
Really?
come close to her. Oh yeah, she's badass.
Yeah, I saw her back in the '80s, and so that wow, I didn't even know she was still performing. So that's really great to hear.
Well, this was back in 2019, so I don't know if she still is, but yeah, I definitely saw her.
That's and it's very cool that you like that kind of music, because I always get a thrill out of when people listen to that type of music and then have an appreciation for it, because I go, when you listen to the music today, and there's some music out there that I enjoy, that I think is good, but for the most part, it's so homogenized. It's so, cookie cutter, that everything sounds almost the same. It's so overproduced that when and everyone sounds the same. It's like, it's not like back when you had, Queen. No one sounded like Queen. No one sounded like Prince. No one sounded like Boston. No one sounded like Chicago. I mean, these were all groups that had all these different sounds that you could appreciate. And that's what made that era so wonderful, is because of all the different music that was coming out.
Right. Well, something I'm seeing now is remixing. Like these old iconic songs are just being remixed over and over again. And it's like not just one singer's doing this. They're seeing this person do this, and then this rapper is going to do this. And now this rapper is going to do this. And now this female rapper is going to do this because this male rapper did it and he got a hit off of it. So it's like you get these older songs that now the younger generation doesn't know what the real song even sounds like. So every time they hear that melody, they start rapping when it was actually from a rock song, or anything like that, because that's just what they know. They know the remix. And
Right.
I just think it's interesting how, but when you think about the 80s and the 70s, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have these large databases of instrumental tracks and stuff that they could share with different music engineers, and everybody had to create the music in the studio with the drums, and they didn't have the drum machine. They had to blow the horn in the studio and record it that way. So I think music back then just took so much more heart and soul to create as opposed to now.
And yet, here's the beauty of it. Bohemian Rhapsody, which is probably Queen's most famous song, and one of the most iconic rock songs of all time, if not the most iconic rock song, it had one producer, and one producer only, and that was Freddie Mercury. Beyonce's, I don't know how many albums it's been since this time. It's probably been at least a couple albums, but she had 17 producers on her one album. Freddie Mercury was the producer for Queen's album. It's like, and yet this song was so amazing, and it was just such a, I mean, the way he blended everything together, and yet it was one person who did that, because he was a real musician. He was a real singer. He understood music.
He's
And
an artist. He had the vision in his mind, and he knew what the sound he was looking for, and he didn't stop until he found that.
exactly. So, Yeah, and it's not to knock the music of today, but I just don't think anything compares to the 70s and I'll say early to mid 80s. At the late 80s, there was, you had grunge, and I actually liked grunge, but it still didn't compare to the 70s and 80s. So
Yeah.
but well, sir. So I wish you all the best success. I love the fact that you're such a go-getter, that you're an entrepreneur. I wish more young people would be that way. And look at, look, have fun with your life and stuff, but be smart enough to know that your youth doesn't last and that you need something else to depend on besides your looks to be able to make it in the future. And so you're going about it the right way. You're making sure that you have things set up for yourself in the future. And I just love your entrepreneurial spirit and everything that you do and working hard at being successful. I think that's just a smart way to go about life.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any any last words you'd like to impart on the audience before you go?
I do want to apologize about some of the things that I said that could have offended some of those in the trans community or the gay community. Sometimes I say things without thinking about the full repercussion of them. And in no way would I ever want to come off as hateful to any group or embarrassed of any group. So I just wanted to apologize about that to any of you out there that might be looking at me now like, why did you say that? Because I am regretful and I didn't think before I spoke.
I didn't take it that way personally, but again, I'm not trans either. But again, I always make sure that people understand there are difference between people who acted the way that that person acted towards you and trans people who are not like that at all, and that person who hit you is not representative of the trans community, and the people who I personally know would never act or behave in that manner, and they would condemn that type of behavior as well. So I didn't, I hope no one takes it that way, because I know you didn't mean it that way, and I certainly knew you didn't mean it that way. So but again, I'm sure people will appreciate your sentiment.
Thank you. I also want to thank you for taking the time to interview me and showing interest in my story and wanting to learn more about it. And I'm very thankful for that. So thank you. As you know, I'm still relatively new into the YouTube thing, and I'm still trying to grow my channel. So collabing in ways like this is really helpful and exciting.
Well, thank you for saying that, and it's been my pleasure. And I'll extend the invitation to you. You're welcome to come back on at any time when you have your website up, and if you want to come on, you get new products or something that you want to talk about, I'll be happy to have you on, and maybe we'll have a giveaway or something, and for a new product that you've put out. But I hope you're very successful with it, and you should be, especially with the candles. I can't, like you said, everybody loves candles. So
thank you. Yeah, I would love to send you some once I get more inventory created. The thing with candles though is it's a science. You really have to figure out how much oil to add into each candle and what jars you like and what wax you like and what labels you like. So it's fun though.
Well, thank you. Well, listen, thanks again for being on this show. I look forward to having you on again in the future. And again, the best of luck to you. So thank you.
Thank you, Kurt.
And thanks for watching and listening to us today. Hope you had a good time. I always hope you have a good time. That way you come back and listen and watch some more. So, but until next time, take care, be safe, and love yourself so you can love others. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.